Hey guys, that's Chuck. I'm Tuck. Welcome to episode 2 of Chuck and Tuck. And yes, dreams do come true, boys and girls. A wild idea when we were just chatting about the Bruin at K, and now we got a podcast. So Chuck, how have things been, my man?
Going really well. It's hard to believe we're this far into the school year. We jumped right in and off to a great start. Looking forward to homecoming next week.
Oh my gosh, homecoming. I love, it's so nostalgic. We put together, Blair and Scott Vermeer, we put together a video. It was so cool to work with our local organizations and alums. That video got 22,000 views in about the first week. And it was so fun, but it was very hot, as you can imagine, wearing this coat in a truck with no air conditioning. So bless our neighbor, Lori Roll over there, who had a truck that it was perfect Bruin colors. None of the instruments work, and so you had to count when you shifted. She didn't tell me that till I was struggling to get out of her driveway, and I was like, am I doing something wrong? Like, I felt so much pressure. But it's been so cool to reconnect, and I know that both of us look forward to having those alums back home at Custer Stadium coming up next week. We do have our parade, like Chuck's talking about, the 3rd in downtown Bartlesville, so thousands of Bartians will descend on downtown, and we're so excited to celebrate our kids and celebrate our generations of Bruins and our Wildcats and Spartans out there. So today, really what we want to talk about is we want to talk about something that Chuck's been really passionate about, and you probably have heard if you've seen Chuck out and about, is a book by Jonathan Haidt called The Anxious Generation. So Chuck, if you kind of tell us about that and the kind of the purpose behind it.
Yeah, there's some, he's wrote a book or some research about the impacts of cell phones and social media on all of us, as well as just kids growing up, all of us growing up, how it's changed in terms of interaction with other people, and then just childhood dependence. So something I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about today is just for our students to think about, because at this age, it's not that far away where they're going to be maybe going to work full time or going off to college or some combination there, or maybe military, but really to start thinking about, we literally have the world at our fingertips now with our phones, which is different than how you and I grew up. And so I'd like for our students to kind of start thinking about things that, maybe their parents are doing for them now that they can start doing for themselves, whatever that might be, because it's going to be soon where, maybe as simple as, just thinking about, your laundry. Or maybe, we all eat. So how do you get your food? And I know there's ways to DoorDash it and do different things too, but just in terms of maybe you got some favorite meals at home to maybe visit with mom and dad about how do you do that? How do you, if your folks grill but start thinking about some things that maybe your parents do for you, for our kids, that they could be doing for themselves, and maybe start working on doing those things here before because it's not going to be long. They're going to be out in the world.
And to Chuck's point, we used to write papers, and I can remember at Central Middle School about how to make a peanut butter sandwich. And we had, I had Miss Wells, I had home economics, and we would have parents come in and show us how to make pancakes. We would go through all these basic things, but then again, we didn't have smartphones. We were just getting into the Nokia and the Snake, if you guys remember that was the best. And then flip phones once we got it to high school when you and I were both here at the same time. So something that Mr. Haidt brings up in the book is this transition that kind of happened in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where we went from free play to more, very low parent interaction or guidance when it came to playtime, to parents are very strict about playtime, and then we kind of roll in those maybe 2012, 2013, we roll into the phone generation, the phone-based childhood. So kind of talk about that impact and that transition from those two styles of.
Well, in all of our, it's not just kids, I'm talking about young adults as well, but all of our development, when you're at this age, when you're high school age, student, kid, all of us, your peer interaction is very important to you. You kind of go different stages with your parents. At some point when kids get out of high school and get on, their parents will seem cool again, but that'll take a little bit. But you're really worried about your peers. That's a really big part of your life and your development. And so, cell phones, for all of us, have made it where, you don't have to do as much in-person interaction, where you can just interact on your phone, or comment, or like, or subscribe. And how you maybe how you view things. If you're really, I'm sitting here, but I'm worried about, gosh, how many people liked my whatever it is, or didn't like, or have unfriended me, or what can I do for more people to look at this thing which is in the social media world, and it's constant, and we all have those. I have my phone right beside me, and just think about how many notifications we're going to receive while we're sitting here.
Yes.
And so obviously when that's part of your development, that can have some impact on you. So there's just some things that I would encourage people, just some awareness, I think, when you're growing up. And like I said, I don't want students to think about it's just them, because it's the whole world.
Yeah.
And really we all need to do better about interacting with one another, thinking about, how often are we on our phones?
Yeah.
And just because we can check something constantly doesn't necessarily mean that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And also for our parents to think about, just because they can check something constantly. When I talk to kids about when they're on their phone, what do you use it for during the day? And many of them are, well, my parents are checking on me on different things. I'm like, well, I wonder if that could wait till 4 o'clock. So you could maybe spend some time with your peers and talking about. So a couple things. One, just to be aware of the use of it and the reliance on it. And then 2, to look up. When I walk in here, see people walking in the building, looking down, and to look up. And we got this homecoming next week is such a great memory.
Yeah.
You may not realize it at the time, but usually the weather's a little cooler, just like it is now. And just some really nostalgic things to experience. I encourage our kids to do that.
And I think the other day when we were with our friends at Tri-County Tech and at Sherry Wilt in the chamber, Chris Batchelder, class in 1991, was talking about, his daughter, one of his daughters that was helping interview potential interns down in Dallas. And somebody brought their mom to the interview, and it was like, you've got to do this on your own. These are things, and these are practice reps, and you're going to fail. Like, not everything's going to be instant gratification, like instant 10 out of 10.
Right.
And you'll learn from that. I can, when I graduated with my bachelor's, and I started working down the road at Lucas Metalworks in Oshaleta, I'd interned there first. Social media was starting to blow up, so it had become, how am I going to get the most views? How am I going to get the most likes on content that we were putting out? That transition was hard, and I think that was the hardest thing for me in my career in marketing, was like, why are we focusing so much on that when we should be focusing on the substance and building those relationships? And that's why later in my career in the corporate world, I handled mostly international partnerships, because that was more about setting down, let's talk about what we're really trying to do. I don't want to chase likes. So, and I think for our kids, it's really important, like Chuck has said, instant gratification is not going to happen.
Right.
You're not going to blow up and be PewDiePie or Mr. Beast. Like, that is like few and far between. Right. But what you can do, like you were saying, is be present in the moment with your peers. Right. Understand that 20 years from now, which I'm almost at my 20-year anniversary, my reunion, is that you'll have that moment where you think back, that was really good times. Just being in this old gym where we're at today, shooting the podcast, thinking about great times over there in the brew crew. Like, be present in those memories. So let's try to enjoy that. And as parents, like, we have great staff members, we have great teachers throughout our district that are putting our kids first and creating fun teaching environments and classroom styles. And I saw it over at Wayside last spring with the class of 2000, Kelsey Bridges. She was talking about some stuff she had done, and it's so cool. Just live a little and let loose.
Yeah, I think probably a couple things that hit home with me too, and these are just generalizations, girls and boys. One's a little different, which is fine, but overall, on the most social media that girls use typically has been like Instagram, is what research tells us. And I just want to make sure folks are aware too. Just that when people see that and they're living with things that they continue to see pictures of things that aren't real or doctored. And that's not healthy. That's not the real world. That's not what people really look like. And so that can have an impact on you when you're growing up. If you're thinking everything that you see on your phone is real life, and it's not. Yeah. And then for our boys, a lot of times it's scrolling videos and video games, and sometimes to interact with others, they want to stay home in their basement and play video games because they can interact with others. Well, boy, it would be really more healthy for them to interact in person with one another. And so just encourage them to think and realize they're going to do some of all those things, but really encourage them to make a point to be more present with others, and because they're going to really develop some great memories and help their development in life.
And the author has some great charts on his website where you can kind of look at the rise in anxiety and depression, starting from like what we were saying 2012, 2013, where we really get to that age of the smartphone, whatever that was, iPhone 4 or 5 at that time. So I would recommend take a look. You know, I looked it over last night before we came to record today, and it's very, very surprising the impact that it's had. And I think it's something that we all have to take in consideration.
Sure.
You know, I got 2 young girls, and I know that, you know, social media and everything is going to be completely different by the time that they walk through these hallowed halls here.
That's right. There's some basic, just real 4 things that the author recommends that I think are good things for us to consider for everyone. One would be, you know, kids don't need a smartphone before they're in high school. Second would be no social media before 16. Third would be no cell phone access during the day. So I know, like here, we're not supposed to have our phone during class, but you know, the concern would be when they're at lunch or between classes, really when you need to be interacting with your classmates, you know, not just worrying about your cell phone. And then fourth is just more childhood independence, which is kind of where I started with. I think that, so I encourage for our kids to think about, our students thinking about, you know, what things are others doing for them that they can start doing for themselves.
And I remember during my time, and I grew up going to Oak Park Elementary, and I was in the Gifted and Talented, the old Kaleidoscope program through Duke, and we'd get bused over to Wayside. But something that I always loved was, like, we had these games where we would try to find errors on a page real quick. And so that's the first thing I do when I enter a room. So when we were at Tri-County Tech the other day, I realized their empowering was misspelled wrong within 5 seconds on the first impact side from our friends. But there was things like that, like, I didn't need a device. Like, it was a challenge, and we would be competing against our peers and have rankings, and it was fun. So, like, I see these nostalgic videos on Instagram and stuff, like, remember the 90s? I'm like, yeah. You know, the free pizza coupons for reading books. You remember those?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
So kind of pivoting away from our conversation with the anxious generation, kind of talk to me about some other things going on in the district since we last spoke.
Yeah, well, of course, you know, we've got homecoming week next week, and the parade is always just awesome on Thursday night. So much fun, and of course, we got the ball game Friday night, and I've always told folks it's really our home football games are really the opportunity to see so many of our kids. And it's not just football, you know, with cheer and pom. You know, our band had their first competition last week and finished second. See them perform. You know, of course, our brew crew, which is infamous, that you were part of at one point in your life, not as football, basketball, but you know, and of course, we've got the video protection now that's going on too. I found out they did their first. I haven't watched it yet. I look forward to going back and seeing that stream. And so it's just a good opportunity to see a lot of our kids do some things, and it's such a great week. And obviously, it's going to be a big football game as well.
Yes,
it'll be a district game that's really going to be a big factor in where we go in the playoffs. And then you know, we've got the Bruin 8K coming up October 12th on Saturday morning, and it's going to start and end over at Madison. We have about 190 staff members signed up, and about over 100 fifth graders that are going to participate. It's open to anyone, so they can still sign up. Encourage them to do so. And if we have any staff or any adults that would like to volunteer, they can contact Blair. You know, if you've been to a race, there's some spots where we need to kind of close down the street just for a minute to encourage people to go by. So those are going on. And just a couple of real quick things too. You mentioned band, but you know, our volleyball girls are wow.
They're doing awesome. Yeah, they could host regionals. Yeah, there's a potential. We know Emery Brown. She's potentially going to. I think she signed or committed to UMKC. To play with the Roos up there. Right. But there's so many talented players. I think Hayden Brandon the other day hit like 1,000 or 2,000 assists. Like those girls are a great unit, and I know that the new coach had taken over. After Coach Ward, they've just carried on that legacy. So they beat Jinx and they beat Broken Arrow.
That's right.
So I'm excited to see what happens with them.
Yeah, I think the state will determine. Hopefully, we'll get to host a home regional, which we haven't had in years.
Yes.
And so if we do that, I mean, we always have a great student section, but really want to encourage people to come out because that'll be a one-night event. You know, we win 2 matches and we're going to state. So I encourage people to come out, and I think that's scheduled for tentatively for October 15th, right before fall break. So you know, those things are coming up, and we just had some I think 11 of our students were recognized by the College Board for their academic
Yes.
performance. We put that out too. So yeah, it's just fun times. And Russell Miller, one of our seniors, he won their first cross country meet a couple weekends ago too. His cross country is obviously a big part, a big part of our running community as well. So yeah, it's just a fun time.
And Russell, I'll give him some props, but he interns as a leadership intern with HTO. So he's helping them with some of their HR side. So he'll do hiring events with Skylar, who actually is assistant coach for the Lady Bruins basketball program as well. So he went to Oklahoma Westland the other day with our friends over there and helped do interviews and stuff. It was pretty cool, and he's kind of quiet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Hey man, how'd it go?" And he's like, "It's pretty good. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of talking." So that was really fun. And I just want to hit home on, with homecoming, there'll be so much going on. Coronation starts at 6:30. So that'll be kind of before the game. So it's good to be early. The quarterback club will have a tailgate. We have a lot of our community partners who will be part of that tailgate. Alumni Association will be there registering people for their new alumni profile. We have a new system that's being implemented with Blair and that team. So I love seeing all the kids. That's one of my favorite things, go to the press box and kind of watch the whole thing kind of unfold, because it is a production, but it's like the Bruins on display. And I feel like we just do an amazing job because we have the right people in the right place and giving kids the opportunity to explore. Now, something else I wanted to do this week was I wanted you to kind of think about some people either in our district or in our community that have really made a big impact within the last month since we last talked.
Yeah, I'll mention, of course, Blair Ellis with the Foundation Executive Director, kind of all the behind-the-scenes work on, this Bruin 8K. It's a big deal, and so, but the Bruins on the Run program, we have, like I said, we have over 100 fifth graders signed up for that. And what they do is they run after school a couple days a week, and then they're going to run this 8K. And I think about that. When I was in fifth grade, I didn't know what 8K was. Literally. Yeah. And what's I think most impressive is they have over 50 of our staff that are volunteering their time to work out with these kids, to run with these kids. It's been hot.
It has.
And so every one of those mentors, I can't thank them enough. And just for the kiddos to be a part of something, we all need to be part of something. I don't care what kids are involved in. I just want them to be part of something, being part of our Bruin family. So I really want to just a special shout out to all those teachers that are involved in that, taking the time, because there's no extra money for that. And they just do that. They're just here to serve, do that out of the goodness of their heart. And so really proud of them and thankful for them, because it's really making a difference for our kids. So those are and Blair putting that race on, because it's obviously a big fundraiser that helps the foundation, but really special shout out to those teacher mentors.
Yeah, and they've done awesome. I was out on the Pathfinder the other night, and I saw Kevin Brown, the principal over at Jane Phillips, running with a crew of fifth graders, and it was very buggy.
Yeah, we've had that. I know we've had they started I Beat the Soup part of it. They give a T-shirt out to kids that do that, which there were several kids that beat me last year in the race, and I've been training this year, so hopefully they won't cost them too many more shirts this year too. And they're doing some other things like with the elementaries in terms of I passed the principal on some of if they're going to do a walk as well. So anyway, we're going to have the Bruin Bear out there. It's going to be a great event. So I'm looking forward to having that. And of course, it's such a great time of year. And we talked about homecoming, but with the weather the way it is, really encourage people to get outside and enjoy it.
Real quick, we'll talk about some academic side of the house. Here at the high school campus, we're up to about 160 kids that are serving within career internships, mostly unpaid. And then we have another group of those that are doing work skills, which is work study when you and I were here together. That has been a huge blessing for a lot of our kids who are already working 20 hours a week, and they're trying to balance academics and to put their best foot forward for their post-high school plans, regardless, like you said, if it's military, career tech, college, or straight in the workforce. So they're building those skills. From a concurrent standpoint, last spring we were at about 89 of our Bruins, juniors and seniors, taking concurrent classes through about 6 higher education institutions. And this year we're up to about 120. So we've increased heavily. We've seen a proliferation. And those are good skills to build because sometimes those academic calendars don't align with ours here at BPS. So kids are having to balance both academics here at BPS, academics with, TCC, RSU, OSU, OU, and then balancing their sport or activity. So I always like to see the growth of that kid throughout that year when they start doing it. But our kids are doing all the things.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. You talked about construction the other day. I'm kind of like our friend Batch, like engineers kind of scare me. So when I see him walking down the hall, I was like, oh no, am I not walking correctly? But they're doing awesome down there. And we have so many great things going on. Like Chuck said, there's still time to register for our 8K. We'll have the Bruin Tunnel up. So shout out to our friends, Coach Wright and the Bruin football team. They're actually going to inflate it and deflate it for us. I was so nervous.
Good.
I was like texting Blair. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to mess this up. There's a generator involved. But again, I want to say, I deeply appreciate everything you do for our kids. And, we go way back. And Chuck has always been that type of dude that opened doors of opportunity and helped build up. And like you said, sometimes you have to learn from mistakes for our kids.
Sure.
And
okay.
Same thing for parents, right?
Yeah.
Like I was telling him off camera, like I've got a 2-year-old, and sometimes it's like The Exorcism. If you've ever seen that old movie on VHS, and you're just sitting there, you're like, I love you, honey. It's going to be okay, just because you can't play with the dolls right now.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us for episode 2 of Chuck and Tuck. And make sure you come out to Homecoming. We'll see you at Custer Stadium on October 4th.